For our first chart example, I'm going to create a map chart that shows the revenue by state. Now to do this, I'm going to go ahead and change my default application back to application 1, and we're going to work within the reports and source code that we had worked with in the initial lab exercises. To start, I need to create an empty report. Once I've created the empty report, I'm going to go ahead and save it in that bin subdirectory, and I'm going to name it mygraph1. You could, of course, provide a more meaningful name if you wanted to. I'm going to put it inside of that reports virtual folder. And now that I have it saved, let me go to my data view tab and let me bring in that store order.rdd. And now I'm ready to start building that map chart. So what I want to do is over in my report structure, I'm going to select my page route, and then in my toolbox, I want to add a map chart. I can double click to add the map chart, and what you'll see is it adds a map chart. It also adds what's known as a map chart item. So let's start first with our map chart node. Let me go to the properties, and there's a few things I'm going to change. Let me drag this over so we can see it all. The first thing is in my name property, I'm going to give it a more relevant name. So I'm going to call it map chart, total revenue by store. I've now described in the name what this map chart represents. My next is to change the title of this map chart so it gives me a descriptive name. So underneath the chart section, for the title, I'm going to just type revenue by state. And then the key value, what are you grouping your quantities by? So the keys is going to be the non-quantitative, the values is the quantitative, and I want to group revenue, which is what we're adding up, by state. So my key title, I'm going to change to state, and my values title, I'm going to change to read total revenue. We're going to let it default to a pie chart. Now that I've set up my map chart, I can then set up the map chart item. So let me click on item and go to the properties here. And now under the map chart item, I'm going to change the key to represent what key it's going to display. Now I don't want to display the state code, I want to display the state name. I want it to be something that is understood by the viewer of the report. So let me enter into the function editor because I'm going to be doing data, and let me do the code completion state name. Expression OK, and I click OK. Now under the value, I have to say what it is I'm summarizing. So underneath this value, it's going to be the summarization of the data.items.quantity times the data.items.price. Now you'll notice I don't have to apply any sort of sum function here. I'm giving in the value. It's going to go ahead and group that value or summarize that value according to the key that I've provided. Now that I've completed this, let me go back to my report structure. And inside of the report structure, I now need to place the store number trigger as a child of the map chart node. And then I need to place my map chart item as a child of the on every row. So what this means is that each row is going to be considered in the summarization. However, we're only going to have one chart because it's not being broken up according to the store number trigger or the order number trigger. I go ahead and save my changes. Let me draw this back. You can see a bit of an idea of how it's going to appear out, but let me go ahead and save my changes. I now need to go and open up my report main, and I need to modify this so that it's calling that my graph 1. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to comment out some of these lines that we used with our labeling. And I'm going to add my if statement back above. So if FGL report, load current settings, and then my report name, which is my graph 1.4rp, then it's going to go down and let handler equal FGL report commit current settings. Let me save these. Let's rebuild our application. And then let's execute the application. The application executes, and what we get is a chart of the revenue by state. My data only has 3 states in it, and so we can see we have Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois appearing. We have a little legend underneath that identifies and helps us see the different keys that were used inside of this report, and we see the values being printed out. You'll notice that it printed out as a pie chart. What happens if we chose a different type of chart? If I go back to my graph and I look at the properties for the map chart, instead of a pie chart, let's say we wanted to do a ring chart. We could change it to ring. You get an idea of what it's going to look like. Let me save my changes, and let's re-execute the application. And now you can see that same information is being displayed as a ring chart. If I wanted to go back into Studio and change it from a ring chart and make it into a 3D bar chart, I can save this. I can execute. I see my report, and it's now being shown as a 3D bar chart.